It is Wednesday, 20th day of June, the year is 2018, and in a short while we shall be linking up with members of the National Assembly for their second sitting of the day. They already had a morning sitting traditionally reserved for private members' bills and motions, and this morning members discussed at length a motion sponsored by West Mugirango Member of Parliament, Honorable Vincent Kemosi Mogaka. And this one speaks to the expansion of the school feeding program to all public primary schools in the country. And this is in cognizance of the fact that Article 53, Section 1, Subsection C of the Constitution guarantees every child the right to basic nutrition, shelter, and health, and also recognizing the fact that primary school age children are at a stage where they require nutritional meals for healthy mental and physical development. Then it is prudent that the school feeding program that had been implemented in the country in the 1980s at varying degrees of success be reintroduced, and to ensure that we have a generation of well-fed children in our schools. This is a motion, if adopted, that will be crucial and will come in handy, especially for primary schools, public primary schools located in the arid and semi-arid regions of the country. And all that remains is for the question to be put on that. Members also did begin discussions on a motion sponsored by nominated Member of Parliament Godfrey Ososi. And this one is seeking the establishment of sports academies in every constituency in the country. And this shall be done through the Ministry of Sports and Heritage. And this is for the benefit of local talent at the grassroots, and acknowledging the fact that sports has a lot of benefits on the economy, all sectors of the economy, including and not excluding health, social and cultural sectors, and that therefore there is need for such academies to be established right where they can be accessed. It is a provision that is contained in the Sports Act 2013 that establishes the Kenya Academy of Sports, that is expected to establish and manage sports training academies. And so this will be a case of devolving that particular institution to the counties. That is a debate that will hopefully continue next Wednesday morning during yet another sitting set aside for private members' bills and motions. This afternoon, 8 bills and 4 motions lined up for discussions. Members shall be retreating to a committee of the whole House to discuss and make amendments to the County Allocation of Revenue Bill, Senate Bill number 11 of the year 2018. And that speaks to the allocation of
Can you ring the bell for quorum?
the National Assembly experiencing a lack of quorum 18.
Order number 2, communication from the chair.
Honourable members, I wish to introduce to you a delegation of government officials from the People's Republic of Bangladesh. The delegation is seated at the Speaker's row and comprises of the following. 1, Mrs. Ayesha Akhtar, Deputy Secretary. 2, Mr. Razul Islam, Deputy Secretary. 3, Mr. Mahed Hassan, Deputy Secretary. 4, Mr. Muhammad Kaikobad Kandaka, Deputy Secretary. 5, Mr. Kandka Estiak Ahmed, Deputy Secretary. 6, Mr. Muhammad Asadul Haq, Deputy Secretary. 7, the delegation is in the country for a training on good governance and public administration, focusing on governance for enhanced public service delivery and leadership at the Kenyatta University. On my own behalf and that of the House, I wish to welcome them to the National Assembly of the Republic of Kenya and wish them fruitful engagements during their stay in the country. I thank you.
The following, that for many years now, residents of Suna West constituency and the neighboring constituencies have been experiencing intense cases of cattle rustling. That this situation has led to the loss of many lives and destruction of properties as raiders terrorize residents in the area. That on Tuesday, 15th May, constituency borders. Further lack of police posts and low numbers of security officers within Suna West constituency. That the government has an obligation to protect lives and property of its citizens. That the matter presented in this petition is not pending.
Commenting on the petition.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Speaker. I just wish to say that this petition, the petition by Honorable Peter Masara, is a very critical petition. Mr. Speaker, I just wish that as the committee, the responsible committee delves into this work, it should consider a number of things. Mr. Speaker, cattle rustling should be looked at both as an economic activity on the part of the rustlers or as a cultural activity. And then again, the committee needs to be alive to this and should come up with the appropriate recommendations on how to educate people.
Or I will do something. So I assumed now that he has not responded to my letter, he is unable to do anything about it, and he's interested in game machines for betting and such things, and he's not seeing the lives of the people who are being lost to be very serious, Mr. Speaker. So, Mr. Speaker, this is my place now. It is through your area, jurisdiction, where I have the mandate now to speak and tell Kenyans the suffering my people are going through, Mr. Speaker. Instead of wasting his time banning those betting machines, those things can be done by chiefs and assistant chiefs. They can collect those things and ban them. The issue is cattle wrestling, Mr. Speaker, is a big problem, Mr. Speaker. So, Mr. Speaker, I want that.
How a minister works. He's not a boss, the minister. He's an opposition member. In fact, he doesn't even want that minister. The minister is working effectively to rid this country of corruption.
Unfortunately, you don't need to respond. The member is in order to question what the minister is doing. So if you don't agree, if you feel
cattle rustling is a way of life, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, it is very weird in our country, in the 21st century, people cannot think of other ways of earning a livelihood but going to steal other people's cows, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, and a similar problem, and it is still there in my constituency, Mr. Speaker, and I have already asked the Minister of Interior through a statement which I'm expecting him to come and answer here in Parliament. And this is the high time the Minister of Interior puts his foot forward and tells the country what he is doing to eradicate this vice from our community. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Finally, member for Kandui.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I also stand to support the petitioner by our honorable colleague. But, Mr. Speaker, I also, Speaker of Trans Nzoia, some rustlers from a neighboring county took animals from Trans Nzoia. And their leader from the neighboring county merely retorted that they were collecting mboga for them, from a neighboring county.
In respect of the following institutions for the year that ended 30th June 2017 and the certificate therein. 1. Retirement Benefits Authority. 2. Government Finance Corporation. 3. Statement of outstanding loans. 4. National Cohesion and Integration Commission. 5. Agri and Cooperative Training and Consultancy Services Limited. 6. The Receiver of Revenue, State Department of Infrastructure, Ministry of Transport, Infrastructure, Housing and Urban Development. 6. The Receiver of Revenue, State Department of Public Works, Ministry of Transport, Infrastructure, Housing and Urban Development. 7. The Ministry of Education, Science and Technology, State Department of Basic Education. And 8. Policyholders Compensation Fund. Number 4, Mr. Speaker, I beg to table the reports of the Auditor General on financial statements in respect of the following constituencies for the year that ended 30th June 2016 and the certificate therein: Lukuyani constituency and Butere constituency.
Next order.
Order number 6, notices of motion. Order number 7, statements.
Leader Majority Party.
Mr. Speaker, during the motion of adjournment of the House yesterday, I did make some claims to this House in regard to some companies that were licensed to import sugar in the last 1 year. Speaker, I also did to undertake not to only table the list of today, but also of the Gazette notice issued by CS Rotich. Honorable Speaker, in keeping with the undertaking and the requirement of Standing Order 91 regarding responsibility of statements of facts, allow me to therefore table the following documents. 1. List of companies licensed to import sugar following Gazette Notice number 4536 of May 12, 2017. List of companies licensed to import sugar under Gazette Notice of May 12, 2017, October 4th, 2017, and October 13th, 2017. Mr. Speaker, I also beg to table a copy of the Economic Survey of 2018 by the Kenya National Bureau of Statistics, which indicates that in 2017, as a country, we imported close to 1 million tons, 1 million metric tons of sugar during that window. Mr. Speaker, this is more than the total amount of sugar imported into our country in the last 6 years, as reflected in page 124 of the Economic Survey of 2018. Mr. Speaker, if you allow me, I just want to take the House the memory line. In that report, Mr. Speaker, it indicates that the price of 1 kilogram of sugar increased by 16.6% from 118 in 2016 to an average of 137.8 in 2017. Same in the same report, Mr. Speaker, in 2017, merchandise trade deficit widened from Kenya shillings 853.7 billion in 2016 to Kenya shillings 1.131.5 billion. This was driven, Mr. Speaker, by the high import bill, which grew by 20.5% over the same period. The main drivers of the import bill, Mr. Speaker, were industrial, machinery, petroleum products, motor vehicles, iron, animal and vegetable fats, oils, and sugar. So, Speaker, expenditure on sugar doubled during the period from Kenya shillings 22 billion in 2016 to 61 billion in 2017. So, Speaker, there was an increase in import expenditure from Brazil on account of substantial import increase in sugar in that year, 2017. Similarly, Mr. Speaker, there were reductions in cane production and deliveries to factories in Western Kenya, which reduced drastically from 7.2 million tons in 2016 to 4.8 million tons in 2017. Speaker, this was because of the importation and flooding of sugar in the market. Mr. Speaker, as we have agreed as a country, Parliament must rise to the occasion. Sugar bags, 50 kg bag, Mr. Rai and KPA must be held accountable. Mr. Rai was importing sugar like sand. The ships were coming in bulk. The sugar was put in trucks like you are transporting clinker, the one that is used in making cement. Then the same sugar was being put in godowns like sand. And then that is where repackaging was done. And that's why, Mr. Speaker, I really want you to ask the two committees that they must go to the bottom of this. Yes. They must tell us who are these companies, who are the directors. If any of us sitting members of Parliament, Mr. Speaker, it must be said. Speaker, time has come that we should not sugarcoat. We should not sugarcoat corruption. We should not give people properties they don't own in social media. Mr. Speaker, let us help the good farmers of Western Kenya. So, Speaker, as a country, we can't import 1 million tons in a year. And, Mr. Speaker, the economic survey report of 2018, so, Speaker, I have tabled in this House, and members must read. Mr. Speaker, with your permission, I want these documents to be used by the two committees concerned so that they can start their business. Mr. Speaker, we must take task to Kenya Revenue Authority. We must take task to KEBS, to KPA, to Treasury, to SGS that supplies the COIC, the Certificate of Origin, that how do they allow a contaminated sugar to be president in the war against corruption and contraband. So, Speaker, when you see the leader of majority doing this, it's not because, and some people were telling me that he has become, I am still the member for the people of Garza Township. Yes. Yes. And I can use the floor and the standing orders. So, Mr. Speaker, I really want you to make sure our colleagues, these are the barons, these are the rich of the rich. I hope and I pray that our colleagues who sit in that committee will not be compromised. They will not be compromised. That they will, that they will call a spade a spade. That, Mr. Speaker, there will be no in-camera meeting. That the whole deliberations must be open to the Kenyan public and to the media. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Honorable Maore, what is it you want to say on this?
Mr. Speaker, I think whoever put the leader of majority in the media helped this country. So in the social media, so that he can explode and bring us the truth. Now, but on that note, Mr. Speaker, if you can remember the Constitution provision of 108.4, it talks about the pecking order of the leadership of the House. The Speaker, then number 2 is the majority leader. Now we were appreciating what you have done. And a lot of us are very angry with the bad manners in government. And you have helped us by doing a lot of work we would have wished to do if we had the same information. Now, as the leader of the majority, you are supposed to be our link between the executive and this house. If there are these problems, are we sensing that the government is turning out slowly to be a giant leaking ship? Or what is happening? Actually, we need to come out on these things. Because we are having a problem of government licensing, Kenya Gazette, sio raia wanafanya ama opposition. Serikali inafanya. Nini iko na shida kwa hii serikali?
Including matters of corruption in government. Because he represents the people and he has a duty and an obligation to raise such matters before the House. And since in our own rules, once a matter of this nature is raised, it is referred to the appropriate committee, or indeed, if it had come otherwise, I think this matter is monumental. It's the kind of matter that would necessarily have called for the setting up of a select committee. But as you know, the setting up of a select committee involves a motion. It involves a motion being moved, indicating the names of the members to be in that committee, and the House votes. So don't for once entertain the suspicion that I could use standing order number 1 to declare that a select committee has been set up. Because in setting up a select committee, the House votes. So if I were to go to standing order number 1, I would therefore be violating Article 122 of the Constitution. So I will not do that, because the matter was raised on the floor yesterday, and through the statement sought by Honorable Sunda, and referred to the Departmental Committee on Trade, I heard the leaders talk about 2 committees. You see, now when you talk about do a select committee, it is not done in the manner that you are suggesting. You are just sitting in your place and whispering that a select committee would be appropriate. That I know. I've already said it would be appropriate, but that has not been proposed. Nobody has come up with a motion to that effect. And given the magnitude of this matter, is the kind of thing that I believe the House would have risen to the occasion and approved the motion, and there been one, but there isn't. But leader of majority wanted to.
Speaker, just because yesterday you gave direction on this matter, I have consulted my colleagues, the leader of minority, and just because yesterday you gave a direction that 2 committees of this House with the very competent members and men and women of integrity. The Speaker, for now, I think it's important, and because of the time factor, it's important that colleagues agree with me that we should not return back from what a select committee is just like a departmental committee. We should have confidence in all our committees. We are proud that there are men and women who can execute this matter and represent us. So, Mr. Speaker, but just because yesterday when this matter was raised, you have sent it to 2 committees, then we will ask them to expedite and maybe give them more direction.
No, with the matter which was raised yesterday was referred to the Departmental Committee on Trade, whose mandate, if you look at your standing orders on the second schedule, the mandate of the Committee of Trade is trade, including securities exchange, consumer protection, which was a matter that was raised, pricing policies, commerce, industrialization, including special economic zones, enterprise promotion and development, including small and medium-sized enterprises, intellectual property, industrial standards, anti-counterfeit policies, and cooperatives development. So because of that has already, because the matter is one of import. And, there was an element of counterfeiting and also an aspect of consumer protection, safety. The member for Suna East, what is your...
Chair, no, Speaker, I just wanted to add to my voice on what the majority leader has raised. This matter, Mr. Speaker, squarely lies in the Committee of Trade, Industry and Cooperatives, because this is an imported product, Mr. Speaker. It's not sugar cane that's not sugar that was produced from sugar that was grown in Western Kenya, where I come from. It is sugar that has been imported, which is contaminated, and it's a counterfeit product. So for that reason, Mr. Speaker, this matter can properly be dealt with by the Departmental Committee of Trade, Cooperatives, and these other, no. Agriculture is about growing, Mr. Speaker. This is not, this sugar was not grown in Kenya. This sugar is written Brazil sugar, Mr. Speaker. So this matter, Mr. Speaker, and the standing order is very clear as you read it, under Schedule 2, Mr. Speaker. In fact, if there is a departmental committee that should join them, is Health Committee, Mr. Speaker, because it is dangerous to consume mercury and lead and copper, Mr. Speaker. So there are doctors in the Department of Health can go there. But this is purely a matter of trade and trade, industry and cooperative, Mr. Speaker. Consumer protection, Mr. Speaker. This departmental committee is supposed to protect the interest of consumers in this country, Mr. Speaker.
You know the composition of these committees that we are talking about. They are majorly composed in numbers by members from government side. And if we are serious that we want to address this matter, Mr. Speaker, let us form a select committee so that we have a team that is going to work and it's not going to be controlled by the same cartels, the same names that help in forming these committees. So, Mr. Speaker, let us have this matter really debated and let us agree that we have a team that's going to help this country. Otherwise, if we are even arguing on which committee should handle what, it means we are not sure. And I want to plead with you, Mr. Speaker, that we open up this matter for a select committee. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
You must also read your standing orders properly. In the formation of committees, there is a reference to relative strength, political party strength. So now, whichever route you go, you will not avoid that. And I think if we cannot trust committees that you have yourselves approved here, then it just means that maybe this could be an opportunity for an early general election, was it? Because now, let me hear a member from Sambweni, because he's been also raising up his hand.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker. I'm a member for Lunga Lunga.
Member for Lunga Lunga, sorry.
Yes, Mr. Speaker, this is a crisis. And you know, it involves importation of sugar from outside the country. And I think for clarity and for proper asking of questions when it comes to importation, I think it's good if we go by your opinion of coming up with a selection committee. Because selection committee, Mr. Speaker, will involve, select committee will involve members who may have an interest, may have an expert background, because I'm a clearing agent, Mr. Speaker, and I will tell you for sure, for such a magnitude of importation, it needs proper asking of questions. So I don't exist in any of the committees that we have mentioned, but these committees are cross-cutting. We have health committee.
But now you are imputing some improper motive. When you say that it requires proper asking of questions, you are saying that the members we have in this other committee are not capable of asking questions.
Mr. Speaker, I've been in committees, and you know there are cases which come up, which some of the committees are not aware of what is happening. That is my opinion, Mr. Speaker, because you came up with a brilliant idea of coming up with the select committee.
Let's hear the member for Homa Bay, Honorable Asuna.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I would like to support your view and the view of several other members on coming up with a select committee. My reason is, Mr. Speaker, you've heard from contribution of members the nature of the issue we are dealing with. It is cross-cutting. We have trade issues. Agriculture might also feel like, you know, what is the impact of this on sugar growing? Health might feel the same. There are issues of tax evasion, KRA, KPA. So the issues, finance might also want to get involved. So there are health issues involved. So, Mr. Speaker, because of the cross-cutting nature of this matter, I feel the best way to address it so that no committee feels disenfranchised or they want to get involved.
Them to be through with this matter and let them table a report here, Mr. Speaker. That is my opinion.
Member for Seme.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. To me, we have two elements here. There's illegal importation of sugar. I think that is what we are handling, and I think the select committee or whatever committee is decided will do the job. But I'm sure it will take time. There is something that worries me. People talked of contamination with lead and copper. Unless we know that is a joke, I think there's an urgent matter that I don't think can wait for the committee to work. There is need to actually find out, do we have copper and mercury in this sugar? And if that is so, Mr. Speaker, there is need to withdraw those sugar. And what I would expect, Mr. Speaker, is public health officers actually must go around, check sugars in the supermarkets. It can be done. The officers are there all over the country. So that, first of all, we solve that problem and put aside. We are assured there is no, or if there is, we see them being withdrawn. So, Mr. Speaker, whichever committee we want, I think I'll ask the leader of majority that this is action that the executive should actually take so that we can be at peace. 2 weeks or a week will be too long if people are actually consuming, particularly mercury. I don't know how mercury got there, but I think. But if it has been done, Mr. Speaker, are they being withdrawn from the markets? If this was cholera, we would all be saying something should be done. But this, unless, Mr. Speaker, members are aware that that is just politics and the sugar is not contaminated. That, Mr. Speaker, is my concern.
Member for Kikuyu, Chair of Budget. What?
Thank you, Honorable Speaker, and I want to add my voice. First, the idea of a select committee is a good idea and a brilliant one, but I find it's an idea that's coming a bit too late, Honorable Speaker. And like Dr. Nyikal, my worry is, and Honorable Wangwe, who was seated where I'm seated today, yesterday told this House that he actually went to pan paper mills and took photographs of the sugar that was in godowns or warehouses in there. And immediately before he left, there was a truckload of GSUs ordered to come and guard that sugar. We do not know political parties. And therefore, it will be relevant which committee of this House handles this matter. That committee, whichever committee handles that matter, should be able to table a report here within the shortest time possible. If it were possible, Honorable Speaker, if you had the powers to pronounce today that a special team, I wish we had, the Parliamentary Service Commission had formed the Parliamentary Police Unit, because we would have charged our police unit from Parliament to go and guard all those go-downs. I can bet, Honorable Speaker, and I want Kenyans to listen to me, Kenyans in Webuye, Kenyans in Nakuru, if you see trucks moving sugar, stop them. because we must get to the root of this matter, Honorable Speaker. Honorable Speaker, I was just perusing the East African Community Customs Management Act. As I walked in, a battalion of border riders were demonstrating outside Parliament, Honorable Speaker. These are very young Kenyans, very poor people working on borders who are suffering. Today, Honorable Speaker, young Kenyans, young ladies and young men who are in the confectionaries business and cakes business cannot access the East African market because they are being denied access to the East African market because of failure by the National Treasury to make known to the other East African countries the exemption that we gave to this sugar last year, Honorable Speaker. That was a breach of the law. It is a matter that the Trade Committee also must look at. We must also charge that committee to look at issues to do with quantities. What were the quantities of sugar that was required, and what were the quantities that we license people to import duty-free? Honorable Speaker, there are laws under the East African Customs Community that govern how you exempt some of these commodities from paying taxes. And you must notify the other East African countries. That we never did. Honorable Speaker, is it that it was deliberate so that this sugar is not just in the Kenyan market? It could be that it is also in the other East African countries' markets, Honorable Speaker. And therefore, I want to beg that we allow the Committee on Trade, which Honorable Speaker was directed to handle this matter, to handle it and bring us a report as a chair. I hope the chair is here. He promised us within 7 days. Today is the first day. We are waiting for another 6 days. We expect a report here, Honorable Speaker, and we debate and we end these shenanigans of theft and manipulation of government policy to enrich a few people in this country, Honorable Speaker. We must speak without fear or favor and speak on behalf of the people. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Matungu.
Asante sana Bwana Spika. Lazima sisi kama bunge tuchukulie hili jambo kwa njia ambayo inatakikana, kwa sababu Bwana Spika, ukiona jambo inakusa maisha ya mwanadamu, ni lazima sisi kama wabunge tuichukulie hatua ambayo inatakikana, kwa sababu maneno ya sukari imeongelewa kwa muda mrefu katika nchi hii. Mimi kama mbunge ambaye anatoka eneo ambalo linakusa miwa, wakulima wa miwa wanateseka. Kwa sasa factory ya Mumias imekufa, na imekufa kwa sababu watu katika nchi hii wanatoa sukari nje kwa kiwango kikubwa hadi ile ambayo inatengenezwa katika mafactory zetu. Factory zetu zinakufa kwa njia gani? Ya pili, unaona ya kwamba ripoti imetolewa jana na government chemist ya kuonyesha ya kwamba hii sukari iko na sumu. Ikiwa sisi kama wabunge hatutachukulia hili jambo kwa ile hali ambayo inatakikana, tutakuwa tunakosea nchi hii na wananchi wa Kenya. Kwa hivyo ninasihi wajumbe wote katika bunge hili, ni lazima tuchukue hatua. Iwapo ni mimi ninahusika, hata mimi nichukuliwe hatua ambayo inatakikana. Hatutaki tuonekana ya kwamba tunasaidia wajangili wa kuleta sukari katika nchi hii kwa njia ambayo haitakikani. Hatutaki tuwasaidie wajangili wa kuleta sukari na kuharibu uchumi wa nchi hii, Bwana Speaker.
You see, this is why I was telling you now, everybody, there is no motion. You know, you are debating about something which has not. Now, Honorable Asiali.
Thank you, Speaker. Speaker, the question is whether to form a select committee or let the committee on trade proceed. Mr. Speaker, I want to support the position of members who are talking of dedicating this to the committee, because the members who are in the Committee of Trade also qualify to be in the Select Committee. Therefore, we'll just be repeating the same thing, Mr. Speaker. The only other request I wanted to make, Mr. Speaker, is that this is not the first time sugar is being imported in this country. We have had the Committee of Agriculture, which has had to look at the issues of importation for a long time, and I'm sure for institutional memory, Mr. Speaker, even if we don't dedicate this to the Committee of Agriculture, we need to put a few members, and members, you should know that any other member, even if you are not a member of trade, you are free to go and attend the sessions. Therefore, if you have any questions that you want to ask as a member of parliament, you have a right to go and attend the sessions so that you can ask the questions that you would have wished to ask when you are in the Committee of Select, if you qualify. Therefore, Mr. Speaker, my request is that already the Committee of Agriculture has moved. It has already written to the Cabinet Secretary, CS, they're coming to meet them. They have already written to KRA, they have already written to all these departments
they have no capacity to write. So, you know, please, I also want to just encourage members to also know what is their function. When you, as a chair of a committee, go to a press conference and start saying, I have written, you have no capacity. None of you has capacity to write. So you are misleading the country. I am aware that no letter has been written. That is the truth. No letter has been written because the letters have to go through the clerk. No, I mean, he can say he has written, but I know he has not, and he has no capacity to write. The letters are written by the clerk, and we have already there is a reference yesterday at the request of the Honorable Lesuda, referring these issues to the Departmental Committee on Trade. So, you know, honourable members, let us not begin appear like we are fighting. We want to do this. We want to. I mean, you are all members of this house, and indeed, just like Honourable Asheli has just rightly put it, you are at liberty to attend the hearings of whichever committee, and indeed, ask questions. And like you say, this matter really is a matter of great moment in this country. We cannot wish it away. So I would encourage as many of you as possible to actually attend, just in case you might have some information for space. I see the leader of the minority party indicating he wants to speak.
Mr. Speaker, I think why probably members would get a little confused is because of the subject matter. I think this matter has attracted national attention, and that is why I would say, before I put my thoughts to what was being discussed, that really, even if it is politics, we can't play with the lives of Kenyans. So even if it is politics, let us rule out that it is actually politics, rather than just assuming, instead of just assuming that it is politics and the lives of our people are at risk. But Mr. Speaker, this question of whether this matter should be referred to either select committee or which departmental committee, to me, it is simple. There is nothing that stops two committees from working together as to form joint meetings of the committees. If the Committee of Agriculture feels they have a mandate to investigate the matter, and the Committee on Trade feels, why don't they come together? This is not the first time that departmental committees of this House are coming together to interrogate or investigate a matter in this House. So, Mr. Speaker, I would not have a problem with forming select committee if there is a reason. And those who are calling for the select committees can tell us if there are doubts on some members of these committees, then I think that is a matter that should be laid on the table, because our standing orders are clear. Our standing orders are very clear. But my fear with forming a select committee on this matter is if we go that route, then we'll render departmental committees useless. Because why then do we form departmental committees if every matter that is going to come up, Mr. Speaker, we are going to form select committees? Yet, the Standing Orders 216 is very clear on the mandates of departmental committees. So in my view, Mr. Speaker, if we are serious that we want to investigate this matter, we need to ask the committees responsible to investigate this matter publicly. Let the people of Kenya see witnesses. I don't mind who is going to sit in those committees, so long as the people of Kenya are going to watch our legislators. Because again, when we start casting doubts in general terms on committees, then, Mr. Speaker, I think we are hurting this House and hurting it irreparably. If we have specific members, either in trade and industry or agriculture or security, whom we feel should not sit when these matters are being transacted, we can be informed. In fact, the leadership can even remove those members from those committees. I am ready to remove even temporarily any member of NASA whom members have strong conviction and evidence that they should not sit in those committees. We will replace them with other members for the period that this matter is going to be discussed. But, Mr. Speaker, unless I am convinced why it is very important to form a select committee, I am reluctant to, because again, then where does the work of our departmental committees then will end? Tomorrow another matter will come up, then members will call for a select committee. Then we should not then have departmental committees. We form committees as and when need arises. So, Mr. Speaker, that to me is my view. I have given it in honesty, but I want to conclude that, honorable members, if we are serious, if we are seeing the magnitude of this problem, then I think issues of which committee should deal with it should not even arise. We should deal with the substance. We should even monitor. Honorable Duale and myself and the whips should monitor our members as they deal with this matter, so that we see a member who is compromised. And I want to say clearly and categorically that a matter like
select committee in the whole of 11th Parliament, the one on Mira by Honorable Kajuju. And the rationale is that, members, and the Speaker, you'll agree with me, is that if we start forming select committee, then the functions of departmental committee will go down. Speaker, and we must agree, as the leader of minority said, each and every member of RCA 349, let us not cast aspersion on the integrity of our colleagues. Mr. Speaker, if we go select, the earliest that motion will come to the House is next Wednesday afternoon. Because we need to go and compile. It needs to be approved by the House Business Committee on Tuesday next week. And Mr. Speaker, let me speak as the leader of majority. To pick select will be too difficult job for me. I'm sure everybody wants to be not select. Everybody, let's be very honest. Everybody wants to be not select. And of course, if you are doubting a departmental committee, then some of us will also doubt the select committee. It can be maybe composed of the cartels. Yeah, if you doubt the select committee of trade and agriculture, what makes some of us not doubt the ones we are going to bring? In fact, Mr. Speaker, and Mr. Speaker, because this matter came through me, I don't want to be accused of selecting people to a select committee. And in fact, if we go that route, I want to excuse myself from the person selecting the selection committee. I'll leave it to my leaders. Because, Mr. Speaker, but let us respect our members. And as the minority leader said, if you are doubting somebody in trade, it's not about this matter. Tell us. Because the same committee of trade is dealing with other sensitive matters. So why do we trust him sitting? And let us respect each other. I think this committee, we have agreed to give them 10 days, the Speaker. And I think if it is health, the members of health, those who have health background, Honorable Pukose, Honorable Nikal, can go in. The standing orders will allow us to secure through the office of the clerk an expert opinion. We can get Kenyans who are experts to come and sit in the committee on taxation, on everything, Mr. Speaker. Whether the matter Honorable Member for Kikuyu was raising, Mr. Speaker, is also very, very important. If you look at Article 210 of the Constitution, the Speaker, and I really want you to interpret for this House, the Speaker, that article, maybe Parliament has also failed. It says, well, the member didn't read to the House. That article, Mr. Speaker, says, no tax or license fee may be imposed, waived, or varied, except as provided by legislation. Speaker, the question that I'm asking is, before the minister gives Gazette notice, waiving duty, I thought he should have come back to the House to get the concurrence of this House, Mr. Speaker. That is what this article says. Secondly, Section 104 of the East Africa Custom Management Act, which the Minister, Mr. Speaker, is citing in the Gazette notice, talks about the Minister to consult his colleagues of Minister of Finance within East Africa. Those are the issues we want this committee to find out and ask Honorable Rotich, did you consult it? Did you, because again, taxation, when you waiver, it's for free, for relief. You're talking about a drought. My constituency was a victim of the drought. They never received free sugar. They were buying sugar at a very expensive price. So were we giving barons taxation, Mr. Speaker? I think our committees can work together. The Finance Committee can give its expertise. The Legal Committee can give its expertise. And as I said earlier, let us make sure this process is done in the open. No one state or public or private person appearing in the committee should be. Mr. Speaker, you can give us those, you can help us override that standing order. That we don't want people to come and say, I want to speak in camera. Speaker, this matter should not be in camera. This matter should be in the public. And the Speaker, these companies, over 50 companies have tabled. We want to know the direction.
So if we were to say this committee or the other, we would have to have a hodgepodge. And I think it's not be neat. But in order to promote harmony, I would direct that this matter be dealt with jointly by the departmental committees of Trade and Agriculture. Any other member of this House will be at liberty to appear. And therefore, I want to encourage the Chair of Agriculture to get in touch with his counterpart of Trade so that you agree on the time, the most appropriate time for you to begin your sittings. I'll give directions that the clerk will release letters to the various persons, bodies, and organizations to appear before you. And because of the seriousness of the matter, those committees are allowed to sit even when the House is sitting, including sitting during the weekend, if you find it appropriate so to do. And that your joint sittings will be held in public. Remember, that's what the Constitution requires, at the County Hall chamber, so that the evidence that you'll gather will be in the open, and all Kenyans desirous of knowing what is happening will then be able to, even as you compile your reports, will also be able to be making their own judgments as to what they think is the matter, is the problem. And your recommendations therefore, you must know, will be there for everybody to see. So, Chair of Agriculture, don't write the letters. The letters will be written by the clerk. Yeah? Chair of Trade also, if you are also inclined to write letters, do not attempt to write. The letters will be written, and your committees will be able to arrange your own diary, your own sittings, and the sequence of those meetings. So that, and remember, because of the cross-cutting nature, you will be required to invite quite a cross-section of Kenyans. Because this matter is out there in the open. We all know some of these things which are happening. Even very small traders are being arrested, things being confiscated. I think we need to hear as many Kenyans as possible. But in the first instance, now that the Chair of Agriculture is here, make sure that as much as possible, you're able to present a report within 10 days from the date of today. So you must move with speed and begin your hearing. Some of the officials don't require to be given too much time to appear because they are not too far away from this house. So you should be able to get them to come and provide whatever information. The documents have been laid here, so you have everything that you require. So honor members, I think in order to, because if we say we go the route of forming a select committee, you've had the misgivings, and it will take time. And I think, as pointed out by the Honorable Nyikal, we do not have the luxury of time. So, honorable members of the two committees, you have your work cut out. It is so directed.
Order number 8, Committee of the Whole House.
Members, now we are in Committee of the Whole House to consider the County Allocation of Revenue Bill, Senate Bill number 11 of 2018.
It has no amendments.
Honorable members, those members retreating from the chamber, kindly do so quietly so that we can transact this business. Honorable members, we are proceeding. Members, you cannot do that. Honorable members,
Clauses 3, 4, 5, and 6.
I propose the question that clauses 3, 4, 5, and 6 be part of the bill. I now put the question that clauses 3, 4, 5, and 6 be part of the bill. Will as members of that opinion say aye? Will as members of our contrary opinion say nay? The ayes have it.
Clauses 7, 8, 9, and 10.
I propose the question that clauses 7, 8, 9, and 10 be part of the bill. I now put the question that clauses 7, 8, 9, and 10 be part of the bill. Will as members of that opinion say aye? Will as members of our contrary opinion say nay? The ayes have it.
The first, second, third, and fourth schedules.
I propose the question that the schedule, the first, second, third, and fourth schedules be the schedules of the bill. I now put the question that the first schedule, second schedule, third schedule, the ayes have it.
Title.
I now put the question that the title be the title of the bill. I now propose the question. So remember, I'll do that again, I'll take that again. I propose the question that the title be the title of the bill. I now put the question that the title be the title of the bill. Will as members of that opinion say aye? Aye. Will as members of a contrary opinion say nay? The ayes have it.
Clause 1.
I propose the question that clause 1 be part of the bill. I now put the question that clause 1 be part of the bill. Will as members of that opinion say aye? Aye. Will as members of our contrary opinion say nay? The ayes have it. I'll call upon. I now put the question, which is that the committee do report to the House its consideration of the county allocation of revenue bill, Senate Bill number 11 of 2018, and its approval thereof without amendments. Will as members of that opinion say aye? Aye. Will as members of a contrary opinion say nay? The ayes have it.
Very well. Honorable members, Chairperson.
Mr. Speaker, I beg to report that the Committee of the whole House has considered the county allocation of revenue bill, Senate Bill number 11 of 2018, and approved the same without amendments.
Mover.
Honorable Speaker, I beg to move that the committee do report to the House its consideration of the county allocation of revenue bill, Senate Bill number 11 of 2018, and its approval thereof without amendments.
Somebody do second. Well, you have the wrong one. It's not used to bills. Yes, mover, take that again, please.
Sorry, Honorable Speaker, I beg to move that the House do agree with the committee in the said report. I also request Honorable Ashiali to second the motion for agreement with the report of the Committee of the whole House.
Thank you, Speaker. I second.
Very well, honorable members, I propose a question, which is that the House do agree with the committee in the said report. Honorable members, I put the question, which is that the House do agree with the committee in the said report. Order. It cannot be when the Speaker is on his feet and you're also on your feet and moving. Honorable members, allow me to put that again. I put the question, which is that the House do agree with the committee in the said report. Will as many as are of that opinion say aye? Aye. Will as many as are of the contrary opinion say nay? The ayes have it. Do we have? Mover.
Honorable Speaker, I beg to move that the county allocation revenue bill, Senate Bill number 11 of 2018, be now read a third time. I also request Honorable Aden Duale to second.
Speaker, I didn't have the opportunity to, as I second, to contribute on this bill. Mr. Speaker, we are sending resources to county governments, this House, year in, year out, under the Division of Revenue Bill. And I want to thank the Senate for preparing the county allocation. But we really want to also ask the Senate, please, to study the Auditor General's report and put to account, governors who I hope they will also accept to undergo lifestyle audit. Mr. Speaker, I saw the Deputy President saying he'll be number one. I want to lead this House also to undergo lifestyle audit. But I want our governors. And Mr. Speaker, there's a blogger called Nyakundi. You know, he was doing lifestyle audit. On many people. And if it is true what he's writing, Speaker, people own a lot of property. But unfortunately, some of it are fictitious because I live along Kiambu Road and he was tagging that my house is in Karen. Maybe he was confusing with the house of my brother, Honorable Bandi. or the other members who live in Karen. I live on Kiambu Road. I'm a subject of Governor Waititu. Yes, and I'm the member from where. So I really want to see that the amount of money given under this bill by the national government, the conditional grants, and the ones from the donors, all that coming together is what this House is approving this afternoon. And I really want governors, our brothers and our sisters, all of us together, let us work for the people of Kenya, and let us make sure that every penny uplifts the people of that county. Thank you, and I second.
That member, I just talked about it a few minutes ago. I propose, honorable members, I propose a question, which is that the county allocation of revenue bill, Senate Bill number 11 of 2018, be now read at that time. Yes, Honorable Makari.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Speaker, for allowing me just to say one thing about this bill. Mr. Speaker, I didn't get a chance to contribute to this bill, but I think there's one thing I really want to say, and I think it's important for members. Mr. Speaker, today is 20th of June, and this is the time we are passing this bill so that it can become law. That means, Mr. Speaker, what we are doing is now is the time we are actually confirming to the county governments now that they can prepare their budgets. And you know the national government budget is already finalized, Mr. Speaker, because we have approved the estimates. So I think, Mr. Speaker, we need to think seriously as a House how we can facilitate county governments to prepare their budgets earlier than we are doing now. Because in the midst now of July, they will use July to prepare budgets instead of implementing the budget. With those remarks, Mr. Speaker, I thank you.
Yes, I see Honorable Atandi. Honorable Atandi, you have registered interest to speak. Very well. If you don't want to speak to this.
No, Mr. Speaker, I had already exited that position.
Very well. You know, I'm largely guided by the members' interests on the screen. Honorable Maoka Maore. Members registered interests and took. Yes. I'll come to you, Honorable Shaban.
Asante sana Mheshimiwa Spika. Swala la ugavi wa pesa kwa sababu ya masuala ya ugatuzi ni swala ambalo linagusa Wakenya wote kwa sababu maana ugatuzi ilikuwa ni kupeleka maendeleo mashinani. Mheshimiwa Spika, kazi imefanyika, lakini juu ya kazi kufanyika kuna zile kaunti ambazo zimeweza kutumia hizo hela kisawasawa na kuna zile kaunti ambazo zimeamua kufuja pesa. Isitoshe, Mheshimiwa Spika, pesa zile zinazochukuliwa wakati wa kuchukua ushuru kwa wafanyabiashara pamoja na pesa zile ambazo zinazotakikana kutumika kuweza kusaidia wananchi pale mashinani zimechukuliwa na zimefujwa vibaya sana. Kuna mchezo unaoendelea na Mheshimiwa Spika, sisi tunasema kutokea hapa bunge hili la 12 kuwa utukutu huu lazima ukome na pesa ambazo zinazokwenda katika hali ya ugatuzi ziweze kutumika vizuri. Mheshimiwa Spika, hapo sana utakuta pia wameweka madai ya kandarasi ambazo ni gushi. Mheshimiwa Spika, tunaomba pesa zitumike vizuri, magavana hapa nchini waweze kusimamia pesa hizi za ugatuzi ili ziweze kupata wananchi waweze kupata manufaa na faida. Naunga mkono.
And I would proceed and put the question on this one. Honorable members, I therefore put the question, which is that the county allocation of revenue bill, Senate Bill number 11 of 2018, be now read at that time. Will as many as are of that opinion say aye? Aye. Will as many as are of the contrary opinion say nay? The ayes have it. Next order. Next order.
An act of parliament, appeal for an act of parliament to provide for the equitable allocation of revenue raised nationally among the county governments for the 2018-2019 financial year, the responsibilities of national and county governments pursuant to such allocation and for connected purposes.
Next order.
Next order, the Tax Laws Amendment Bill, National Assembly Bill number 11 of 2018.
Honorable members, this is basically a resumption of debate interrupted on Thursday, June 14th, 2018. Yes, leader of Majority Party.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I beg to contribute and support this bill, and the Chair of Finance who tabled the report was not in the House. It was in the House last week, Thursday, but he was with the Chair of Budget receiving the CS for Finance to come and read the budget, so I'm sure today he will give the House the views of the stakeholders. Mr. Speaker, the Tax Laws Amendment Bill 2018 basically seeks to amend 3 tax-related statutes, 480, and the value-added tax of 2013, number 35 of 2013. So, Mr. Speaker, in summary, this bill seeks to amend the income tax. I start with that. And it is introducing, and these are proposals, Mr. Speaker. But on the onset, Mr. Speaker, I want to say it categorically, that even what the highlights of the taxation measures the minister read, all those are proposals. This House and its committees will deal with this matter. So Kenyans out there, I am sure when the time comes and when the finance bill is introduced and when we come to the committee of the whole House of this tax laws amendment bill, we will make sure we balance the interests of the state in raising revenue to support government programs and projects, at the same time represent the interest of the people of Kenya. So, Mr. Speaker, the VAT, the Income Tax Act, wants to introduce a tax on winnings and enhancing the tax incentives, also winnings in terms of the gaming and the lottery. And then it's also trying to create and gives an incentive to homeowners in our country. And then finally, how does it do this? Is to amend the stamp duty to provide for an incentive to the first-time homeowners and also amend the VAT value-added tax 2013 in order to move some categories of items listed in the schedule to the bill from zero rated to tax exempt in order to limit the zero rating to exports. And, Mr. Speaker, I have read the report of the Finance Committee. The chair will give the reasons, and the committee has disagreed with the CS on that matter. But the chair will give the reasons because he is the one who had one-to-one contact with the stakeholders. So, Mr. Speaker, the proposed amendments to the income tax proposes to introduce a withholding tax on winnings from betting and gaming at a rate of 20% for non-residents and resident persons. Speaker, these measures reflect the government's intention to benefit from the growing of betting industry through additional tax collection. These measures were already in the income tax, but was repealed due to the implementation challenges and subsequent measures to tax. The Speaker, on this note, I really want to thank the Minister for Interior, Honorable Fred Matiang'i, for mobilizing, collecting these Chinese-made machines where Kenyans no longer go to the farm, they don't go to school, they don't go to church, they don't go to mosque. Most for us, we go to mosque because we don't believe in gambling. Muslims don't believe in gambling. So I'm just speaking on behalf of other Kenyans. So, Speaker, those machines have destroyed the lives of our people. And we want Honorable Matiang'i not to stop. Let him continue. Let him make sure that any chief or DO or DC who does not comply with his order is relieved of his duty, Mr. Speaker. Speaker, even Mama Mboga these days, she doesn't go to the market. When she gets 200 for food for her children, she passes through the machines in every village. Honorable Limo, the chair of finance, was telling me when he goes to his constituency in the villages, there are big billboards, there are shops which are open where these machines are. So, Mr. Speaker, I think we need to support government and we need to support the minister. Mr. Speaker, the proposed amendment to Section 22C, subsection 2 of the income tax further seeks to increase the allowance for depositors of home ownership savings plans from 48,000 to 96,000 per annum. This amendment, Mr. Speaker, is meant to facilitate potential first-time homeowners to save for the purpose of purchasing or constructing houses. So this amendment, in fact, is geared towards one of the big 4 projects of the president, which is about increasing and building 500 affordable housing units in our country. Mr. Speaker, the other proposed amendment is with the first schedule of the income tax. And this one is seeking to exempt from capital gain tax and compensating tax licensed those who are developing new.
From EACC, we want DPP to reign on counties. I am aware of a county where the county assembly alone, EACC is recommending that chances are that that county has lost close to 1 billion shilling. County assembly alone losing 1 billion shilling in 4 years. It is a shame, Mr. Speaker, and I hope that the DPP will not take forever in prosecuting these thieves, people who don't mind about other Kenyans, people who think that their personal wealth overrides the comfort and the comfort of the people of Kenya. Mr. Speaker, with those many remarks, I support. Thank you very much.
End of this financial year, before they can start paying real tax. Mr. Speaker, they were of the opinion that they should be given more time. We also had PricewaterhouseCoopers together with KPMG who appeared before us. Mr. Speaker, KPMG was of the opinion that even though this particular bill proposes to double the tax deductible savings for housing from the current 48,000 shilling to 96,000. What it means here, Mr. Speaker, for members to understand is that currently, if you are saving, if you have a savings plan for housing, you are only allowed to save up to 48,000 shillings per year. But now, the bill proposes to increase these savings to 96,000. In the opinion of KPMG, they say that when you ask someone who is already saving 48,000 to double, and this particular thinking of the government is to make the low-income earners
to afford housing. What it means here is you are asking someone who is earning little to double. At a later stage, we will consider this particular proposal. Mr. Speaker, as I end on the stakeholders, I not cover all of them, but also KRA appeared before us, and we had, remember that KRA is also struggling to collect revenue. This country is a country which is capable of actually funding its own budget. If we prudently collect our own revenue, this country will run away from issues of going for debts from outside. We are able to sustain ourselves only if we have serious tax collection measures. And therefore, KRA came to us and they were having opinions ranging from some of them they were supporting these measures and some of them they were opposing. Mr. Speaker, at the end of the day, we will come up with some raft of amendments to these particular proposals. Let me now, Mr. Speaker, go to particular tax laws and just highlight what these particular amendments are trying to do. On income tax, Mr. Speaker, I had already talked about the doubling of the savings, which was being applied to particular home ownership savings plans from 48,000 to 96,000. And on that particular, Mr. Speaker, I said very, very clearly that there is also a proposal by stakeholders to have 15% relief to a maximum of 108. Mr. Speaker, there is also a proposal on the income tax, Mr. Speaker, on exemption of special economic zones from paying capital gains tax and compensating tax. Mr. Speaker, these particular zones are important in promoting the manufacturing pillar of what the government is actually planning to do. And the only issue is when it comes to capital gain tax and compensating tax, Mr. Speaker, to help the members understand is that these particular companies who operate under special economic zones currently are paying tax at the rate of 10%. And in case they do not pay the tax because they do not declare profit and they end up paying a dividend, the government normally levies what we call compensating tax because for those particular companies which end up paying dividends, because we don't understand how you don't make profit for the purpose of paying income tax and then you declare dividends to the owners. So to ensure the government reigns on their particular profits, there is compensating tax. So this particular proposal to exempt these companies from compensating tax was somehow opposed by KRA because it is going to reduce the revenue collection. Mr. Speaker, on the particular tax on winnings, the proposal is to include taxation on gaming and lotteries to incorporate the issue of winners. Currently, when you win 100 million, if you are betting and you win 100 million, you go with a loot home directly. There is no tax. But now, this particular bill is now proposing that that particular winning should also help in terms of enhancing our taxation. I want to add on what the majority leader said. You see, in the whole world, there is gaming and there is lotteries. But we should have a very organized and orderly gambling and taxation. Not taxation, lotteries. Mr. Speaker, currently what is happening is, if you go to casinos, some of us have never entered a casino. Because casinos are specifically for certain kind of people. But you see, these Chinese who have come to this country, if we don't control them, they are going to kill the economy of this country. They are going to kill the minds of our people. You see, what they have done, they have actually done devolution. While we are doing devolution of management of the country and management of resources, they are also coming up with devolution of casinos, so that you find small machines which are operated by big guys. The Chinese who are in Kenya right now, some of them even are engaging in hawking. So what they are doing, they have actually taken small machines, and you'll be surprised, Mr. Speaker, members of this House, if you go to your constituencies and you visit the shopping centers, I was surprised. You heard what the majority leader said. I actually specifically said this, that one time I was working in a small shopping center. Then suddenly, Mr. Speaker, I saw some lights coming from some room. Then I said, what is this? Then I was told, come, we show you. And the people at the rural areas are experts. They put in coins and some lights come like this, and they win or they lose. And the owners are Chinese, big boys. They actually drive big cars, which you cannot even afford to drive. But at the end of the day, what has happened? They have actually killed the economy, and they have killed the relationships in families. Many women and children and men, when they go to the shopping center for the particular purchase of some item, they are tempted to go and play in that small casino. Then the money goes. What happens? The war starts there. So we are saying we are supporting the current crackdown on those small machines, so that they leave those particular casinos to an organized system which has always been existing. You'll find casino in Intercon, but we have never gone there. They are for particular people. So we leave our people to do an organized way of doing things, even if they have to play the game. But we must limit to those particular organized way of doing things, Mr. Speaker. And therefore, this particular proposal to bring in also winnings is very good, because so that all of us participate in building the economy. Mr. Speaker, on Stamp Duty Act, the proposal here is very good. This is proposed that for the first-time owners of houses in this country, they are exempted from stamp duty. That particular stamp duty is significant, Mr. Speaker, because if you are actually buying a house and you are required to pay up to $500,000 or even $1 million on stamp duty, and you are told now you are exempted, that is an initiative by the government which will actually make at least some relief for the people and encourage the people. It's an incentive which will encourage people to buy and own houses. Mr. Speaker, on the issue of value-added tax, I had explained when I was explaining what the stakeholders' views were, that this particular bill is proposing several items. You walk around what we are doing in subsidies, it's very little money per bag. It's around 70 shillings a bag. But if you contract the farmer that with a price of 3,500 a bag, it will actually make them encourage and they'll walk around it. To also mitigate against the issues of environmental changes, in case there is crop failure, we must encourage crop insurance so that the farmers will be safe and they will actually produce. Mr. Speaker, on housing, at a later stage in the finance bill, Mr. Speaker, you'll see countries which are successful in
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Speaker, for this opportunity to also contribute on this Tax Laws Amendment Bill 2018. Speaker, I first want to say that Kenyans are really highly taxed. As a country, the tax regime is extremely overburdening our population. And, you know, we pay tax on almost everything. We pay tax on our salaries, pay as you earn. When you fuel your car, you're paying fuel levy. When you buy food, there is taxation in it, VAT, excise duty. There's so many regimes of taxation in this country. And tax is okay because that is what we require to run the country, because the economy needs money, because that's a fuel for running the economy. Unfortunately, one of the problems that we face as a nation is that a lot of times this money is raised, but is not used in the best way possible. You know, we don't get enough services for the money we pay in taxation. A lot of our money is lost every time you switch on your TV or radio, you buy a newspaper, there's cases of corruption. So it actually feels quite bad for Kenyans when we are paying taxes and that money that we pay ends up in a few people's pockets. So, Mr. Speaker, we listened to the CS for Treasury when he was here, and of course he has a plan of increasing the burden on Kenyans, which we would have been comfortable to support. Unfortunately, as I said, Kenyans are tired now of the amount of taxation we are paying. But Speaker, these bills are actually a relief, because what they do is that they're actually relieving the burden on Kenyans. We have, it is not a punitive bill. It is actually a bill that is supposed to be assisting our people. Now, for example, the amendments on the Income Tax Act, Cap 470, are supposed to ensure that they give a tax incentive to people who want to buy homes. So, I mean, that's a positive thing. That's something that is actually helping our people. One of the other amendments is the amendment to the Stamp Duty Act, Cap 480, which is supposed to be actually providing an incentive for first-time homeowners by actually deleting or exempting them from paying stamp duty. That's a very, very positive thing. So I'm very happy, because this is something we all need to support, because it actually is kind of relieving the burden on our people. The only part where there is a burden being imposed, Mr. Speaker, is also the place where I feel the burden should be imposed. And that is the amendment to the tax laws, the amendment to the income tax, where we are introducing a withholding tax on winnings from betting and gaming. Mr. Speaker, we must discourage this culture that is creeping into this country, where people believe that they will succeed or get rich by luck. And so if you look at our youth are getting destroyed. Every time there is a game that is being played, people are betting on it. When we were young, we used to enjoy, sports as young men. But now, the young men that are enjoying sports, they are not just enjoying the game, they're actually betting. So almost everything that we are doing in this country now has become a way where people are actually gambling their lives away. There are people, young men, who are spending all their pocket money from primary school, secondary school, universities. All their money is actually just going into this business of gambling. And Mr. Speaker, I think that is going to destroy our nation. With those few remarks, Mr. Speaker, I want to say I support. I think this is a step in the right direction, and I think members are comfortable with the idea that this is actually the way to go. And so I support. Thank you.
Honorable Mwangi Gadhiru. Honorable Atandi Onunga.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, for giving me the opportunity to make a contribution on this bill. And Mr. Speaker, from the onset, I would like to say that I support measures which are aimed at realizing revenue, domestic revenue for running of our economy. And Mr. Speaker, I'm one of the few who believe that as Kenyans, we do not need to borrow resources to fund our budget. And so, Mr. Speaker, the proposals that are contained in this bill, in my view, are justified. Because, Mr. Speaker, let me begin by talking about Income Tax Act proposals. Mr. Speaker, I support the proposals to tax winnings on bettings and gaming. And Mr. Speaker, this is really, for me, is to say that this is basically a sin tax, because it aims at deterring obsession by youth in this country in the business of gaming. And Mr. Speaker, we must treat gaming as a leisure activity, not as an economic activity. And therefore, the proposals here, for me, is going to ensure that we stop this obsession. If you walk across the country, a lot of youths are today involved in this business. They wake up in the morning and the only thing they want to do is this gambling business. So this tax is justified. The other proposal that I love, Mr. Speaker, are contained in the Stamp Duty Act, which proposes that one, for the stamp duty, collector of stamp duty, we will utilize the services of registered valuers and practicing valuers to support valuation reports for purposes of collecting stamp duty. And Mr. Speaker, I worked in the banking sector before I joined Parliament. And Mr. Speaker, if you are processing a mortgage today, it will take you more than 6 months for you to be able to get the property registered in your name. And Mr. Speaker, this is majorly because of the delays that are involved in processing valuation documentation. So, Mr. Speaker, by having registered valuers involved in valuing properties to be purchased, Mr. Speaker, will have served two things. One, it will allow the government to collect revenues in time, as opposed to the situation right now where it takes more than a year or 6 months for the assets to be transferred. And two, Mr. Speaker, we need to take advantage of the professionals that have been trained in the field of surveying, who are currently doing nothing, yet the government has only 44 valuers across the country. So these are very good proposals, Mr. Speaker, and I want to support them. Mr. Speaker, the proposals also contained on the Stamp Duty Act, where we are going to give an opportunity for first-time homeowners to be exempted from stamp duty is justifiable, Mr. Speaker. For you to own a house in this country, if you are not involved in businesses such as, if you are not a cartel, you are not a baron, sugar baron or a drug baron, you really find it difficult to own a house. And so, Mr. Speaker, it's the duty of government and this parliament to ensure that we facilitate youth, young people who are just recruited, who are just employed from universities and colleges, all those youths who are struggling from their small businesses to be able to own houses. They cannot do this, Mr. Speaker, if we do not facilitate them as a house. And so, Mr. Speaker, I support this proposal. And the rejoinder that I would like to add, Mr. Speaker, is that this proposal should not be blanket. Because we know that there are sons of the rich, sons of who and who in this country, who probably would find it very easy to own a house for their very first time because their fathers would probably support them. So if we make this proposal blanket, Mr. Speaker, I think that it will not serve the purpose for which it is created, which is basically to allow the youths from ordinary backgrounds to be able to own these houses. Mr. Speaker, the proposals contained in the Value-Added Tax Act, some of them, Mr. Speaker, are not justifiable, because I was surprised, Mr. Speaker, when the CS Treasury brought these proposals. How do you bring proposals that in the long run will make the cost of basic commodities to go up? It will also make the companies, our local companies, basically to close up or to retrench. Because when you move products from zero rating to exempt, Mr. Speaker, you are in short, you are making those products very expensive. And so if the products become expensive, Kenyans will probably go for products that are imported. And in the long run, Mr. Speaker, we are going to have these companies retrenching, these companies closing up. The wholesome effect on the economy, Mr. Speaker, would be very diverse. And so, Mr. Speaker, I would like to say that with the amendments which we propose as a Committee of Finance on the value-added tax, the other proposals on this tax bill are justifiable. And, Mr. Speaker, I would like to urge the House to support. Because if you look at the budget that was presented today, we are even wondering how some of those measures would be met. Because the revenue projections that are there, if we do not strengthen the tax measures that are being proposed here, I doubt whether we are going to meet those proposals in the budget. And so, Mr. Speaker, I also would like us to tax the rich. Mr. Speaker, this is something that we cannot run away from. And I was surprised that in the budget presentation by the CS, he basically withdrew from this proposal. The rich must be taxed because the rich have the burden. Most of the rich in this country, Mr. Speaker, a lot of them have stolen wealth. And even if they are hardworking, businesses that have thrived in this country, Mr. Speaker, are businesses that are done with government, and we have issues with the way these people are making their resources. So in future, Mr. Speaker, we must bring tax measures that will ensure that those who own so much pay also so much. and especially those who own land. Mr. Speaker, there are some people in this country who have large tracts of land, which, Mr. Speaker, they are not even utilizing, and yet they are not even paying any tax on those tracts of land. So, Mr. Speaker, I believe that we still need to think about other tax measures that should come here that, Mr. Speaker, should be able to help this country grow its ordinary revenue. Others, Mr. Speaker.
And this amendment, Mr. Speaker, I think in terms of timing, I want to appreciate the Chair Finance in terms of timing of this amendment. Because these amendments, Mr. Speaker, are focusing on revenue-raising measures, and very soon we'll be discussing the finance bill, which was just presented the other day to this House, which in a broader way will be focusing on the same. So, Mr. Speaker, I see a situation whereby we'll finalize on this bill. And as a result of finalizing on this bill, we are likely to get some of the provisions of this bill when it becomes an act of parliament, finding their way into the finance bill. So I think in terms of...
especially with the prevailing circumstances in the country, was not very wise. And Mr. Speaker, you know a lot of women rely on milk, lactating mothers rely on milk. And when we are talking about medicine, we have people with lifelong diseases, people living with HIV and AIDS. We have people living with diabetes and several other diseases, and they can hardly afford the medicine, leave alone when we levy further taxes on them. As for sugar, Mr. Speaker, I don't even want to mention. We are taxed through mercury, then we come here and we want to tax again in Parliament, Mr. Speaker. So whoever thought about it was very ill-advised, but I want to thank the Finance Committee that they have rethought and are bringing amendments which I will support. Mr. Speaker, I know members have spoken a lot to the proposed amendment to the Income Tax Act on the winnings on gaming. And Mr. Speaker, I think, I don't know if it was Honorable Duale who was saying that a lot of our youth are now involved in gambling. A lot of our women are not doing their work. People are not going to the chambers because of gambling. Mr. Speaker, I think it is the opposite. It's not that people are not going to work and then because of gambling. People are gambling because there is no work. We have very many youth who are not employed. We have women who cannot make ends meet. We have an idle population in this country, a ticking time bomb. Just now we have seen thousands of piki riders outside Parliament who are demonstrating from Nairobi because they are not being allowed to operate within the city. And Mr. Speaker, it is because we are bringing laws that are not sensitive or realistic to the needs of Kenyans, Mr. Speaker. And even though I know gambling is a bad thing, I'm not encouraging it. In fact, it is destroying a lot of lives. And I want to tell, tell Honorable Duale that it's not only in Islam that it's outlawed, even in Christianity, it is outlawed. But people still gamble because they are idle. You know, it is said that an idle mind is the devil's workshop. We have made many, many idle minds, so they have nothing to do. And when people are of idle, there are things that they will involve in, some which I will not mention here, but the other one is gambling, Mr. Speaker. And so the other ones I might not mention will cause population to increase, Mr. Speaker. But gambling, Mr. Speaker, is something that people are engaged in because people have no alternatives. And yes, as much as encourage that we can increase the tax on gambling, but we must deal with the underlying issue, which is unemployment. Mr. Speaker, I think I want to laud the amendments that encourage people to own homes, you know, especially first home owners. Mr. Speaker, though sometimes some of these things are almost ridiculous, as much as we are allowing many people to own homes, but how many Kenyans are able to own these homes? I know there are many of us here who are resisting lifestyle audits. You know, Parliament and politics is a very interesting thing. Only 4 months or so ago, we were the resistors. I was a master resistor. We shall resist. We were all running on the streets resisting. Now the others who are resisting in the house and outside. Why? Because of lifestyle audit. We are now speaking rhetoric here about, oh, don't look at my salary alone. I am doing business. Even if you are doing business, let us look at your age, your salary, that business, and whether you are involved in business of performing miracles. Mr. Speaker, unless you are in business of performing miracles, the kind of wealth that people are making in this country is crazy. Some of us here are sitting here morning to evening, trying to earn an honest living, then suddenly you see somebody, a house has sprouted from nowhere. And unfortunately, because we are so poor as a country, this is who Kenyans are following. They follow you because you can dish out money because people are desperately poor. So we end up having people who come into this house to protect ill-begotten wealth. Mr. Speaker, I totally and fully support lifestyle audit. Personally, I am able, ready, and willing for a lifestyle audit. Mr. Speaker, the only thing I am worried about for myself is maybe I will belong to another category of the very poor ones, which again the country don't like. We don't like very poor people. But we love extremely rich people, even when we don't know where their health is coming from, Mr. Speaker. So let us not be shy. It doesn't matter whether you have done 1,000 businesses. Let us know how you can do business in sugar, and out of a business in sugar for 1 year, you can build 40 hotels and buy a chopper. Even me, I'd want to be involved in that business. I think it will help the people of Suba and the classrooms that we are not able to build and the health facilities that are. Thank you.
Yeah. Honorable Kanyuithia, you know, you certainly have come and I've met a few other members, so please be patient. You'll get a chance in a short while. Honorable Moi Kipruto.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, to contribute to this motion. A lot of people have spoken and we are all in agreement that, yes, we collect a lot of taxes, but we don't utilize this money properly. Too much corruption in this country, Mr. Speaker. There is not one single day you wake up without reading about corruption. Corruption everywhere. Now, Mr. Speaker, the tax laws to be amended, Mr. Speaker, are the Income Tax Act, the Stamp Duty Act, and the Value Added Tax Act. Mr. Speaker, the Income Tax Amendment seeks to reintroduce 20% tax most of the taxation had been borne by the gaming companies and not the punters themselves, the people who play these games. Now, we have reached a point where the government is saying the punters must also pay. So now they're being told to pay their share, which is 20%, Mr. Speaker. I think this is fair. It's also fair in that it will mobilize revenue for the government, but as most of the honorable members here have said, we are good at collecting, Mr. Speaker. But once collected, then there are a few people who misuse these funds. These funds belong to a few people. When will the buck stop in this country? When will someone in this country stand up to say, no, this will not happen? And it's about time, Mr. Speaker. We speak about laws, and we know that laws cannot help anything in this country. We create a lot of laws. They exempt them from paying capital gains tax and also compensating tax. That is good, Mr. Speaker, because it supports the Big Four agenda. It supports manufacturing. That I support. Mr. Speaker, if we go to the stamp duty on the issue of exempting first-time homeowners exemption, it is good because it also creates housing for others, those who cannot afford housing. It makes it available to them. But, Mr. Speaker, I think it is minimal. We don't know what the rates are, but we know that currently the rates are between 2% and 4%, depending on where you are. But this I support, Mr. Speaker, because it will enable those who do not have homes to purchase homes. Mr. Speaker, Under this stamp duty amendment also, although, let me go to the VAT amendment, Mr. Speaker. I support all these amendments except the VAT. And I think when this will get to the committee stage where we will need to amend, I will be there to shifting items from being VAT rated, Mr. Speaker, to the exemption schedule will mean that there will be input tax, yes, but then these people will not be able to claim on VAT, meaning things like medicines, things like milk, things like LPG. Mr. Speaker, all these items will become extremely expensive. These items are mainly used by the majority of Kenyans, not people who can afford these things. These are people, 90% of Kenyans are very poor people. So they depend on LPG, they depend on milk, and they depend on medicines. They require lots of medicines. But with shifting these items to the exemption schedule will mean medicines will be expensive, LPG will be expensive, and so forth, Mr. Speaker. I don't support that. I believe that these items should be left at 0 ratings so that the suppliers who manufacture these things, or those who supply to the manufacturers, will be able to claim the VAT from the government as opposed to passing on that VAT to the consumer. Mr. Speaker, when we begin to increase the cost of LPG, it means people will not be able to buy this cooking gas. It means people will revert to wood. It means people will be going out to deplete forests. It means that this is not green energy. We are going the other way. We are not going in the right way, Mr. Speaker. This is wrong. We should be able to make things like kerosene, things like LPG, very cheap for the common person. But now it has reached a point where it will become very, very extremely expensive. Mr. Speaker, on the issue of inputs in the pharmaceutical industry, we know that 90% of Kenyans, many Kenyans are not insured in terms of health. Now, when we increase the cost of medicines by these people not being able to claim VAT, how will then these people be able to be treated, Mr. Speaker? This is a very worrying point. And I believe, as I had stated earlier, I support these amendments. But this particular one of the VAT, it needs to be looked at carefully. I don't want to delve too much into this. A lot of MPs have spoken about the betting and the gaming and all that. And I think I agree with Millie Odhiambo, Mheshimiwa Millie Odhiambo. She is right. These people engage in gambling because of unemployment. These people are idle. These people don't have anything to do, so they would rather go and gamble. It is a vice, Mr. Speaker. So hopefully, by taxing these lotteries and the gaming, we hope that the activities will slow down. Thank you very much for the opportunity. I support.
The member for Runyenjes.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Mr. Speaker, for giving me a chance to contribute on the Tax Laws Amendment Bill of 2018. And let me start by saying that I am very, very impressed by the idea of imposing more tax on gambling, because it is a fact that so many of our young people in this country are lost in gambling. And unlike in other countries where gambling is done in such regulated environments, in this country, almost everybody can go and gamble. And the experience that I have seen in my constituency, every time I go around, is that so many people, and especially the very young, are now not inspired to working hard, but they want to believe that they can make some very easy money through gambling. So I am in support of the idea of imposing more tax on gambling so that we can discourage young people getting into this. Mr. Speaker, I also want to support the idea of the Interior CS, Dr. Friend Matiang'i, who has come out well in his fight against these gambling machines, because it has really gotten so many young people out of school. And I want to go against the idea from one Honorable Millie Odhiambo, who has indicated that so many people have gone into gambling because of lack of jobs. But from where I sit, I have seen so many people, especially the young, who are also even working, getting so interested in these gaming things. So taxing more on these gamblers will also enable our government to get more money to finance the Big Four and the development agenda in this country. But finally, Mr. Speaker, it is also very important that we as a country think about the corruption levels in this country. Because it has been said before that a lot of money, actually almost a third of our national budget, goes into people's pockets. So it is important we rally behind His Excellency the President and his deputy in their fight against corruption, so that we can ensure that the taxpayers' money is put into proper use, so that we don't have a country where people pay taxes, but we do not have the actual value for it. So with those few remarks, Mr. Speaker, I beg to support.
The Honorable Tandaza, member for Matuga.
Asante sana Mheshimiwa Spika. Kwanza kwangu ni kuunga mkono mswada huu, kwani ikija masuala ya gambling, bahati nasibu, ni masuala ambayo yanaenda kinyume na maadili ya kufanya kazi. Mambo ya bahati nasibu ni kwamba watu milioni 1 wanachanga shilingi 10 na kuwa milioni 100, lakini kati ya pesa hizo unachukua milioni 1 unampatia mtu mmoja. Kwa hivyo kwa kifupi, gambling huwa inakuwa ni kama wizi. Unanyang'anya wengi mara milioni 1 alafu unapatia mtu mmoja. Kwa hivyo zingeongezwa kiasi cha kwamba watu wasiwe na ari na moyo wa kufanya hii mchezo wa bahati nasibu. Lakini kwa masuala ya utozaji wa ushuru, ningetaka kuchangia kwamba kuna wakati ambao vijana wengi waliambiwa kwamba wanahitajika wawe na PIN, na bila kujua, kwa ari ya kuwa labda wapatiwa mikopo na vitu kama hivyo, wakachukua PIN. La kushangaza, baada ya miaka 5, vijana hao ukitaka kuwasaidia kwa upande wa kuwapatia labda ni tenders na vitu kama hivyo, wakienda KRA kutafuta yale makaratasi yanayohitajika, mtu unakuta amechajua adhabu takriban anakuambia na dewa 50,000, 60,000, kwa sababu alichukua PIN na hakufuatilia. Kwa sababu kama mtu yuko kijijini, ni vigumu yeye kwamba atakuwa kila mwezi anapeleka yale makaratasi ambayo yanahitajika, hata kama ni kila mwaka. Kwa hivyo katika masuala ya utoaji wa ushuru na penalties, ilikuwa ni maoni yangu kwamba mambo kama haya yangeangaliwa, hasa kwa wale vijana ambao waliweza kuwa na PIN na hawajapata ajira yoyote wala hawajafanya biashara. Jambo jingine ambalo ningetaka kuongeza ni katika hizi Big Four agendas za Mheshimiwa Mtukufu Rais, ambao mojawapo ikiwa ni usambazaji wa nyumba ambazo zitaweza kufaidi. Hapo ningeomba ushuru kwa upande wa mbao, zile zinazoletwa kutoka nchi za nje, zisitozwe ushuru, zisiekewe VAT, kwa sababu zikiekewa, na hapa Kenya tunajua kwamba tumeweka marufuku ukataji wa miti. Kwangu mimi naona moja kwa moja kutachangia ajenda hii isiweze kutimia, ile hali ni ajenda ambayo ni ya manufaa kwa wananchi. La mwisho ambao ningetaka kuzungumzia ni swala la madawa na ule ushuru ambao umewekewa. Tunajua kwamba mara nyingi kwa wale ambao wana pesa huenda nchi ya India kwa matibabu, lakini wananchi wengi hawana huo uwezo. Upande wa kule pwani utakuta wengi wanategemea sana, utaona mtu ameandikwa labda ni daktari, lakini huyu ni daktari wa mitishamba, sio daktari yule ambaye mtu angeweza kwenda na kupata matibabu ya kisawasawa. Na ni kwa sababu ya bei juu ya madawa ambayo wengi hawawezi kujihimidi. Ikizidi, tunajua wengi kwa upande wa pwani wanalazimika kuvuka mpaka na kwenda kwa nchi jirani ambao hali yao ya matibabu iko chini. Kwa hivyo moja kwa moja nikiwa naunga mkono bado hii hoja, lakini kwa upande wa madawa na matibabu ingekuwa ni haki, kwa sababu tunajua hata tukisema tutapeana ule mradi wa kila mwananchi aweje kuzisajili kwa NHF, najua itachukua muda mrefu, na sioni kama maisha ya mwananchi inastahiki kuumia wakati tukingojea ile miradi ya serikali ambayo itafuatia. Kwa hayo machache ninaunga mkono, nikiongeza na maoni ambayo nimetanguliza hapo mbele. Na asante Mheshimiwa Speaker.
The Honorable Korir Nixon, member for Laganta.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. From the onset, I rise to support the Tax Laws Amendment Bill 2018. The intended purpose of the tax law, the amendments, is to raise more revenue for the government. And I think it is an aspiration of every government to be able to sustain itself without borrowing. And I think this is a good step in terms of trying to raise the revenue, because we have the Big Four agenda and other projects that we need to do as a government. But just like my colleagues have said, is that we are also hoping that, that the revenue that will be collected will equate to service delivery, because that is what Kenyans want. They want service delivered for the tax they pay. And I want to support the inclusion of the exemption of the stamp duty for the first home owners. As very many young people in this country and very many people cannot afford housing because it is very expensive. And one of the expense, of course, is the stamp duty, which goes up to 4% of the value of the house. And the exemption of the first owners from paying this stamp duty will motivate very many, especially young people and those people who don't have a lot of wealth of money, so that they can be able to try and at least purchase a house, a decent house for their family. And I want to also say that on the VAT, I want to agree with my colleagues also that I wouldn't want to support as it is, but with the amendments, because of moving some of the commodities, basic commodities, like food, unga, for example, from 0 rating to tax exempt. This will mean that the companies that are producing these commodities will not be able to claim the 16% VAT from the items they're using to produce these commodities. And that will translate to them adding the 16% to the cost of the commodities and pharmaceuticals. And I think every government aspires also to have an affordable life to its citizen. And I think apart from that, I want to support this bill on the basis that we are trying to raise more money, and also on the issue of the winnings, so that we can be able to raise more money for the
idlers who are engaging in betting, especially our children and vulnerable members of our community. But I would like to join hands with my colleagues who have just said that the government should come up with better policies of ensuring that our young people, our young children who complete schools, find a place to work, so that they don't idle around and they don't engage in illicit businesses. And these are the problems we raise when there must be a better solution. You cannot just chase borders from the city center without giving them an alternative solution to earn their living. And therefore I stand with those boys who are there at the gate, so that they can be, their issues can be properly addressed. Mr. Speaker, the tax incentive on home ownership Owning a house in Kenya is a dream to everybody, including ourselves sitting here in Parliament. It's not very easy to own a house. And therefore, this attempt to build a house, materials are very expensive, they are not affordable, and therefore an attempt by the government to reduce the cost of a house, especially from me being an architect, is very, very much welcome. And I suppose this idea of exempting some of the building materials for those constructing more than 5,000 houses to support the Big Four agenda. Mr. Speaker, you know, I don't know, Mr. Speaker, what is going to be next. After now, lifestyles, audits, whether we are now going to death-style audits, because where we are moving now, Kenya is now moving to the graves. We have heard about mega scandals, which are not supposed to be there, because Kenya has always been talked about fighting corruption. The Jubilee administration, since it took power, it has always spoken about fighting corruption. And in the midst of all these pockets, and I will support any policy by the government that will go into guarding this money from being stolen. Mr. Speaker, before I conclude, I want to support my party leader, Honorable Kalonzo Musyoka. Yesterday we were rebranding ourselves and opening a new office, which is about where you got this, where did you get this, where did you get this? Who will go to the deputy president and ask him, where did you get this? So we must put legislation in place so that it is not just rhetoric talk. It is something that is founded in law, and somebody, an agency that is founded under law, which is not scared by the president, can go and question him. And the deputy president can go and question him. If I question you, Mr. Speaker, where you got that tie you are wearing,
country, and he did it more than once. So I am concerned that whether it is in order for him to do that.
The Honorable Rachel, I think, is in order because he was speaking in respect of the assertion by the president that everybody will undergo a lifestyle audit. So I think the Honorable member was in order.
Mr. Speaker, also on the income tax laws, I am elated because clearly our country is descending into very deep abyss when it comes to gambling. Mr. Speaker, most of the young people in our constituencies nowadays engage in the kind of gambling that is worrying. And therefore, instituting the income on the winnings when it comes to gambling of 25%, Mr. Speaker, I would actually seek that progressively we bring this percentage higher, because we cannot have a country where people engage in activities where they earn money without engaging in any kind of production. And gambling, of course, is one of those vices. And also, Mr. Speaker, gambling has also seen a lot of insecurity rises in our, because we can collect as much money as possible, Mr. Speaker, but this money, if it gets so many cleavages, this money gets so many holes on where it disappears, then overtaxing the Kenyan people will become futile. And one of the issues, Mr. Speaker, we must deal with, of course, even as we collect more money, is the issue of debt. Because once you collect money, it is stolen. Of course, now the country now goes to other avenues of raising money, which is debt, so that we can bridge the gap. And Mr. Speaker, as I study here today, as a member of Parliament, I have already written to the Speaker, and he has already given me enough personnel to draft changes in the fight against corruption and in the laws that fight
corruption and graft in this country. And one of the things that we are going to institute, Mr. Speaker, is something that happened in China, just on Monday, of a gentleman called Zhang.
The Honorable Nyoro, are you discussing the proposals that you intend to make in your law that you will bring to the floor?
No, Mr. Speaker, you know, taxes, we are talking about revenues.
Very well.
Public money.
Proceed.
And therefore I'm talking about corruption.
Very well.
The youth of this country would rather take a certificate or a diploma in procurement other than courses that will help this country. Because I know once you get a diploma in procurement, you get a job in any government entity, of course you become a millionaire overnight. Mr. Speaker, we have to seal all the loopholes, especially corruption loopholes, that our money vanishes. And stop this nonsense of punishing the same people who pay high taxes. They receive the least in terms of when it comes to sharing the national cake. And I'm talking the same as a member of parliament, Mr. Speaker, where we have the most taxpayers, because I suppose the higher the population, also the higher the revenues that are collected by the exchequer. I come from a constituency of around 300,000 population, Mr. Speaker, of over 120,000 voters. But when it comes to me receiving CDF money, and when it comes even to morale...
That order, Mr. Speaker.
Mr. Speaker, as you have heard, my name is Daniel Rono, Keyo South. Thank you for the donation, Honorable Chairman of Finance Committee. I just wanted to emphasize more particularly about the exemption that has been given for housing, the stamp duty. Many people in Kenya, Mr. Speaker, have never known what it is to own a house. This is a good move. This is a move that we must all encourage. Most of the people, if you take, for example, Nairobi, they inherit a house from county government, and then they even think that they own it. They only realize, the children realize that it was not their house when they are evicted from the house. So we should support this, and also the local manufacturing. We must tax those imported goods, more particularly the likes of furniture, which are very weak. They hardly even last for a long time. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, for giving me the opportunity to contribute and support this amendment. And I stand here to applaud the move to provide the tax favors for the first-time homeowners. But I come from a county where majority of money makers believe in buying plots, 50 by 100, 100 by 100, and so on. And majority of them do acquire these plots with the sole intention of coming up with their first homes, majority of them. I wish this kind of tax evasion would probably, or exemption would probably take care of those first-time plot buyers who have the sole intention of coming up with first homes. Because I also think that this would encourage a lot of people, especially from my county, Kiambu, to own homes. However, I do applaud the suggestion and support that this stamp duty be exempted so that majority of homeowners can, first homeowners can own houses. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I think I must take this opportunity to thank the House for pronouncing itself. You know, this is the only time where Kenyans can see how the National Assembly can actually contribute to ensure that the proposals by the President to implement the Big Four can be actually enhanced by passing laws in this House. This House is a very important House, Mr. Speaker, and I want to say the direction which we have taken now in amending these laws and moving these laws at the right time will actually enhance the implementation of the Big Four, and it will be for the betterment of our country. Mr. Speaker, with those few remarks, Mr. Speaker, I beg to reply.
Very well. Honorable members, for obvious reasons, I will direct that we move to the next order.
Order number 10, motion, a report of the Committee on Delegated Legislation on the Community Land Regulation 2017.
Chairperson.
Mr. Speaker, I beg to move that this House adopts the report of the Committee on Delegated Legislation, which recommends to annul Regulation 23 and Regulation 24 of the Community Lands Regulations 2017. The Community Land...
Chair, kindly just read it the way it is in the order paper, please.
Give me the order paper. One moment. Mr. Speaker, I beg to move that the House adopts the report of the Committee on Delegated Legislation on its consideration of the Community Lands Regulations 2017, laid on the table of the House on Thursday, April 26, 2018, and pursuant to the provisions of Section 15 of the Statutory Instruments Act and Standing Order 210 4B, annuls Regulation 23 and 24 of the said regulations. Mr. Speaker, I beg to move that this House adopts the report that annuls Regulation 23 and 24 of the Community Lands Act. Mr. Speaker, sir, the Select Committee on Delegated Legislation established pursuant to the provisions of Standing Order 2010 has the power to scrutinize statutory instruments submitted to the House and to certify and ensure that all the instruments comply with the Constitution of Kenya and all applicable laws. Mr. Speaker, sir, in exercise of these powers conferred by Section 48 of the Community Land Act 2016, the Cabinet Secretary for Land and Physical Planning published the Community Land Regulations 2017 on the 24th of November 2017 via legal notice number 279 of 2017. Following this publication, Mr. Speaker, the Cabinet Secretary, in compliance with Section 11 of the Statutory Instruments Act, submitted the regulations to the Clerk of the National Assembly on 7th December 2017. The Clerk of the National Assembly immediately the National Assembly immediately committed these regulations to the Committee on Delegated Legislation. Mr. Speaker, sir, the purpose of the Community Land Act 2016 is to provide for the recognition, protection, and registration of community land rights. It also provides for the management and administration of community land, and further sets out the role of county governments in relation to unregistered community land. The regulations regarding Community Land Act provide further details for procedures of implementing and operationalizing that particular act. It also sets out the procedure for settlements of dispute relating to community land registration, the procedure for registration of community land by a group of people, more specifically group representatives who are interested in registering their land and claiming it. It also provides for the procedure for the finalization of ongoing adjudication programs as provided in the Land Act. The committee considered the regulations in various sittings, and also on the 13th of April 2018, it also held a meeting with the regulatory making authority, that is the Ministry of Lands and Physical Planning, as required by Section 16 of the Statutory Instruments Act. Upon considering the regulations, Mr. Speaker, the committee found that the regulations generally complied with all the relevant considerations contained in Section 13 of the Statutory Instruments Act, and for that we must commend the Cabinet Secretary in the Ministry of Lands. But there was a problem with Regulation 23 and 24, which the committee resolved should be annulled because they offend
Chair,
Section 13.
Chair, allow me to interrupt you.
Yes.
You have actually an hour to move your report, and you have just used 5 minutes. But we have reached our time to call it a day. So you still have 55 minutes when this matter is again set down. You will be able to use that time when we set the matter down again. Therefore, honorable members, stands adjourned till Thursday, the 21st June 2018 at 2:30 p.m.